Imagine, my dear, that this is the third time our protagonist has gone to the southern part of the region, convinced that remnants of precious metal are still hidden there. During his search, the geologist is bitten by a snake, so he quickly makes a small incision in his hand to extract the venom. When he tries to use his mobile phone to call for help, the phone falls into a deep pit. He runs quickly through the forest, trying to reach the cabin to call for an ambulance, but he begins to feel weak and dizzy before arriving, and passes out as his body fights the venom alone. When he wakes up, he finds his hand swollen and is still unable to get up or call for help. During this time, he sees two men trying to enter his cabin, but when they realize he is sick, they leave without helping him. He remains for days between life and death until the wound in his hand starts to heal. He drinks some water and falls back asleep. The next day, he feels fully recovered, takes a shower, then heads to his car, only to find it covered in a thick layer of dust, as if it had been parked there for a long time. When he arrives in San Francisco, he notices the place is deserted. He wanders through the streets, trying to understand what has happened, and encounters bodies scattered here and there, even inside military vehicles. He finds a message on a screen telling him that a global infection has spread, prompting the US government to close the shelters. After reading the message and understanding the disaster that has befallen the world, he drives to his family's home and discovers that his parents have also been infected. He enters a room to find his father's body on the bed, while his mother's body lies on the bathroom floor. He cries bitterly, then digs a large grave in the garden to bury his parents, bidding them a sorrowful farewell. At night, he sleeps in his old room, and the next morning he goes to the church to find it filled with corpses, as people had sought refuge there, hoping to escape the disease. After that, he heads to the supermarket to collect some essential supplies. But when he tries to leave town, he discovers that the bridge is closed. He becomes frustrated, as this bridge was his only way out. He continues driving until he reaches Los Angeles, which he finds deserted as well. He takes a hot shower, then decides to go to a bar, where he is surprised to meet Milton. Milton shows him a video explaining the details of the outbreak that wiped out millions of people. Icy and Milton get to know each other, and since their meeting a few days ago at the hotel, they have been drinking together to escape the pain of losing their loved ones. The next day, while they're having a meal, Icy tells the others of his intention to search for other survivors, but he discovers that Milton and his friend have a different plan. They decided to wait until the power goes out, and when resources run out, they will end their lives using a gun. Icy asks them why they don't try to leave and look for ways to survive, but they feel there is no reason to continue. When he realizes that they have completely given up, he decides to leave so he doesn't lose his sanity along with them. He gets in his car and drives quickly until he sees a dog in the road. At that moment, he decides to adopt the dog and names him Lucky. He returns to his hometown and stops by his old library to pick out some books on various subjects to study, not knowing what the future holds. He decides to spend whatever time he has left, days, months, or maybe years, at his family's home with his dog, setting a daily routine so he doesn't lose his sanity. We learn that, since childhood, he had considered solitude a great blessing, but now it has become a heavy burden after losing the ability to see any other humans. One day, while standing on his balcony, he sees smoke rising from the chimney of a nearby house. He sincerely hopes that someone else is still alive. After a while, he decides to go there, and when he arrives, he meets Emma, who welcomes him warmly. After reassuring herself about him, she invites him into her home and tells him about her journey until she reached San Francisco. She invites him to stay the night, and the next day, he offers for her to live with him in his house, so they can help each other and face this harsh life together. Emma checks the soil quality in the garden to decide whether anything can be grown there, while Icy cuts the rope hanging from the ceiling, finally feeling that he has a reason to live. When they look into the storage room, Emma notices a rat in the house, so Icy heads to the supermarket to buy rat poison. There, each of them would take a car to fill it with all the supplies and provisions they needed. As for Emma, she was terrified when she saw the bodies of a mother and her daughter lying on the ground. Despite all she had experienced over the past months, she could not get used to the sight of bodies scattered everywhere. But at the same time, this fear pushed her to try to continue living until the end. After a few days, Issy and Emma became very close, as if they had known each other for many years. Over time, their trust in each other grew more and more. When Issy started thinking about building a family with Emma, he went to buy solar panels to ensure they would have electricity at home. But while installing the panels, he fell from the roof and broke his leg, so Emma took care of his injury herself. During this time, Emma told him that she missed having people around her. After Issy recovered a little, she confessed that she was pregnant. Issy felt confused and worried upon hearing the news, fearing he wouldn't be able to protect her during childbirth or provide a good life for their child. But Emma calmed him down and helped him overcome his fears. The very next day, Issy went to the library looking for books on childbirth, since there were no doctors or hospitals to rely on. Over the next few months, Emma tried to maintain a healthy diet. But one day, she had an intense craving for meat. Her husband went hunting, despite not being skilled in this kind of hunting, and managed to catch a cow to meet their family's needs. He relied on the instructions in the books to learn how to butcher the meat properly. Although he initially felt disgusted, he took his time, completed the task, and returned home with the meat. While he was finally installing the solar panels, the number of rats began to increase, and they soon overtook the streets of San Francisco after the cats had disappeared. In the middle of the night, they noticed the rats approaching their house. So Issy tried to drive them away while Emma shot at them. They set some garbage on fire to get rid of the smell that was attracting the rats, and also disposed of the cow's remains. But despite all they did, the rats kept trying to get into the house. The couple hurried to close all the doors and windows, but they realized that their dog Lucky had been left outside. Issy quickly opened the door to save him, but the rats seized the opportunity to enter the house, forcing him to spend the entire night fighting them off. After they finally got rid of the rats, he helped Emma treat Lucky's wounds, and the dog survived. The days passed, and the number of cats started to reappear, which eased the rat problem. As Emma's due date approached, her husband did everything he could to help her, and they managed to complete the birth successfully despite the lack of medical assistance. 6 years after the crisis began, Issy was returning home after a long day of hunting when he hit something on the road. When he got out to see what it was, he was surprised to find it was a little girl. He tried to chase after her and communicate, but she was scared and asked him to stay away. As the moments passed, the girl realized that he had no intention of harming her. Issy told her that he was married and had 2 children, and that he and his wife lived with other people, offering her a place to stay if she had no other place to go. She initially refused and preferred to stay alone in the forest. However, she later secretly followed him and hid in the trunk of his car. When they reached the house, Issy introduced her to his family, but she remained silent, so they all decided to give her some time to get used to them. Early the next morning, Maureen brought breakfast for the girl, but she pushed her away and hit her, refusing to come close. However, with patience and time, Maureen managed to gain her trust. When the girl went to take a bath, Maureen decided to check her bag and found a notebook full of drawings. She then prepared a new room for her to stay in. Meanwhile, George and Issy went hunting and passed by the cabin where the girl had been living with her family. Although they didn't know exactly what had happened there, they both felt something terrible had occurred in that place. When they returned home, they heard the message that Maureen had found in the girl's bag and understood that she had lost the ability to speak due to a deep psychological trauma she had experienced. At that time, the family decided to adopt Livia to ensure she would have a good and stable childhood. A few weeks later, Emma and Issy welcomed their 3rd child and were overwhelmed with joy. A year passed, and one day, while the children were playing in the garden, Issy heard a strange sound approaching. He grabbed his gun and went outside with Emma and George to investigate. There, they encountered the Moley family, and the mother told them that she had read the sign Issy had put up 7 years ago, saying there were other survivors, which is why they decided to come. After feeding them, Maureen and George suggested the new family live in a nearby vacant house, but Issy objected, expressing his doubts about being able to trust them. However, Emma was able to build a good relationship with the strangers. The next day, Issy went out with the men to gather food, while Molly went into an abandoned hospital to look for useful items. There, she found a dog, scared it away using a fire extinguisher, and then opened the medicine cabinet to take everything she could. Over time, Issy started to feel that he could trust the new family, and it turned out Emma was right once again. With Jean's pregnancy, the family expanded, and they received strong support from everyone. Later, Maureen gave birth to her 1st child, and George was excited about becoming a father. A small community of families formed, and they gathered together to celebrate, just like they did on Head's 13th birthday. On that day, a strong storm hit, and Emma noticed that the dog Lucky had disappeared. Issy grew worried and went to look for him. After a while, he found him dead under a tree branch. When Emma heard his cry, she rushed to him to comfort him, realizing how much he loved the dog. The next day, Issy buried Lucky in the garden. While working in the garden, he noticed a leopard approaching the children to attack them. He jumped in front of them, trying to defend them, but the leopard bit him. At that moment, only Livia was there, and for the first time in a long time, she screamed for help. Everyone arrived in time, and Molly, along with the other friends, treated Issy. Meanwhile, Emma went to seek revenge on the leopard, killing it with 3 shots. After a few weeks, Issy began to heal little by little. Years passed, and Hides and Hive, Jin's older sons, decided to embark on a journey to explore the world outside San Francisco. They bid farewell to their families, promising to return before winter. After several weeks, the family was affected by a drought, so they went to water companies to investigate the issue. Along the way, they encountered cars filled with other survivors, so they quickly returned home. As usual, SA didn't trust strangers, But Charlie, one of those survivors, approached them and asked to spend one night with them. Emma invited them for dinner, and during their conversation, Charlie told them he owned a digger that could be used to drill a well for water. For 3 days, the men worked together until they succeeded in extracting water. But Charlie asked S.A. to accompany him to fill up fuel so his family could continue their journey. S.A. began to feel suspicious about their intentions, fearing they wanted to take over the land. When he told Emma, she got angry with him and urged him to trust people more. S.A. went for a walk alone to clear his mind but lost his way and returned at dawn. When Emma saw him, she screamed in concern, but she noticed his real need for isolation, so she forgave him. Bit by bit, Emma began to feel that S.A.'s suspicions were justified. The next morning, when the well was completed, Charlie revealed his true intentions and announced that he wasn't planning to leave. Later, Charlie attacked Livia in the barn, and when S.A. heard her scream, he rushed to save her, filled with anger at what had happened. He gathered his family to come up with a plan to deal with Charlie, and Emma firmly declared that Charlie must be killed, relying on everyone's support. S.A. went to Charlie's trailer with a hammer and politely told him he needed to leave immediately. But Charlie refused, and when Emma and her family came out armed, he mocked them. At that moment, S.A. lost control and killed him, then disposed of the body by throwing it into the sea. The next morning, Emma went out to tell Charlie's men what happened and informed them they had to leave. Since everyone knew Charlie's bad nature, no one objected, and they ignored what had occurred. After Silas was expelled from the community, he returned a few hours later, begging to be let back in, but S.A. refused to allow him, knowing that Silas had been close to Charlie and had intended to help him take the land. 3 years passed, and everything was going well, until S.A.'s youngest son, Joe, began showing symptoms of the same disease that had previously caused the death of millions. Over time, the disease spread to the rest of the people, and everyone worked together to face this ordeal. Amidst this, S.A.'s daughter returned devastated, telling them that Reeve had died. When S.A. heard this news, he felt as if fate was punishing him for what he had done to Charlie, so he decided to search for a cure for his family and friends. He rode his bike across the bridge and entered an abandoned hospital. Before leaving, he sat for a long time, praying to God for forgiveness, asking that he would be the one to suffer instead of his son, Joe. When Jean learned that her son would not be coming home, she asked what happened, and Hides told her the story. During their journey, they saw arrows marked on the road and followed them, thinking they would lead them to other survivors, but they took them farther away from their original plan, so they decided to return. However, before they returned, they decided to rest in a tent on a hill for the night. Suddenly, a thief attacked them with the intention of stealing all their food. When Reeve realized the thief's intentions, he tried to stop him, but the thief stabbed him in the stomach. Hides, who witnessed the scene, grabbed an axe and threw it at the thief, killing him. She then tried to save Reeve and stop the bleeding, but he bled too much and died. The next day, Corey asked about the appearance of the thief, and Hides described the tattoos on his arm. They realized it was Silas, but they kept the information to themselves. Meanwhile, S.A. did everything he could to save his son. All the infected people were isolated in the camp for treatment, and over time, everyone started to recover, except Joe, whose illness worsened. After weeks of lying in bed, he passed away, which left S.A. devastated. In his sorrow, he wiped the message written on the wall and entered Joe's office, smashing everything inside since it was his son's favorite place. But over time, and with Emma's support, S.A. decided to move past his grief and focus on hope for the future. One day, while walking in the woods and watching the sunset, he finally felt that the planet had healed. A year later, S.A. found Joe's diaries, which documented his genius. Although he hadn't entered college, he had drawn models of radio frequencies and other modern devices that no one had been able to access. As he read his son's thoughts, S.A. realized that Joe's dream had been to find other survivors and share his inventions with them. To honor his son's memory, he decided to use these diaries to build a radio device to find out if there were other survivors on the planet. With his friend's help, he worked on the project, spending long hours attempting to communicate with any colony. When Emma saw that her husband had become obsessed with the project, she decided to take him out for a break. They played basketball with their friends. During the game, Hides talked about the arrows she had seen on her journey with Reeve, noting that the arrows had been accompanied by a sequence of numbers. When S.A. heard this, he realized that if he adjusted the frequencies based on those numbers, he might be able to communicate with survivors. He got excited about the idea, and with everyone's help, they tried it. To their surprise, the device worked, and they heard the voice of a woman named Penny Luby, who told them that she lived in a compound with 77 people. The place was originally a garden and was located less than 160 kilometers from San Francisco. The following week, S.A. and his friends agreed to travel there and join those people to build a bigger and stronger colony together. 50 years after the catastrophe that wiped out more than 90% of humanity, S.A. handed over the leadership hammer to Jack, Hyde's eldest son, feeling grateful that he had lived to see this day and meet his children. And this is where our story ends for today. Stay tuned for more videos soon.